campers, for those of you who are just joining us, we're going to do a real brief reprise of what we covered last time. And that is basically the structure of our government, in sum total, both the American government and the U.S. government, which are two separate things. The American government consists of the unincorporated United States, the unincorporated entity known as the United States of America, a federation of states, and the Confederation, which was always run as the States of America. All right? All of these three American entities are unincorporated. If you think about it, the sovereign government has to be unincorporated. Okay? So, we have the United States, or if you want to do it the way they did in the 19th century, the United States. You have the United States of America, and you have the States of America. The Union, the original American Union of States, was of course formed July 4, 1776. In September of that year, the Federation of States was formed. So both the United States and the United States of America were formed in 1776. The United States in July of that year, the Federation of States in September of that year, and 5 years later, the Confederation of States. So it's 1776, 1776, 1781. All right? That's the American government. And they stack inside each other just like this, like stacking boxes. Then we have the federal government. The federal government are subcontractors of these guys. But we're more familiar with the federal government today than with these, because the states operating these entities have been out of session for a long time. They have come back into session since 2019. All right? So now, briefly, the federal government that we're all familiar with, or that we would normally be familiar with. This is the federal republic everybody's talking about. But it's important to understand that the federal republic was operated by the Confederation of States, the third part of the American government, and both of these entities went away during the Civil War. And that leaves us with these two entities. And as you can see, this is the territorial government, and this is the municipal government. They go by the very similar names of the United States of America and the United States. But when you look closer, you realize that the American version includes the word "the" as part of the name. Here again, "the" is included as part of the name of the American United States. So today, we're going to talk about jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is one of those things that people constantly have problems with. So it's one of the very first things I want to address in this video series. We have these jurisdictions that we work with all the time in law and in legal matters. Law is distinct from legal. And I really recommend that everybody go look up the two words law and legal in a law dictionary. That will help you to understand the two different systems that we are working with. Now, take a look here. We have the air jurisdiction. You'll notice that the air jurisdiction kind of flows above everything else that's going on. The air jurisdiction is global by nature. As you can observe in nature, air just circulates around wherever it will go throughout the entire globe. Then we have the surface. Okay, the surface of the earth is either covered by the soil or by the sea or some form of water, right? Okay, so you have the soil and the maritime jurisdiction. Underlying everything is the land. And as you can see in this little chart, the land even underlies the high seas and maritime jurisdictions, as well as the air. The land, which is the subsoil throughout the earth, underlies all these other jurisdictions. If you don't have the land as the foundation, you don't have any other jurisdiction. And that's why the land is so supremely important. Anyway, you can see here that the soil is the top sector, the top section of the land. And in British, or I should say English land law, the soil is defined as the top 6 inches of the land. So the soil is a relatively shallow little skin of the land which belongs to each nation. The subsoil, the land underneath the soil, goes all the way to the center of the earth. Okay? The maritime jurisdiction similarly has a skin of 1 inch of air above it. And it is the surface of the sea where ships ply and trade, and we have sea lanes, and we have commerce going on and trade going on in the jurisdiction of the sea. And beyond that, we have the high seas, and we have admiralty law, which takes over and then becomes the definitive form of law on the high seas. All these work together more or less as this little chart shows you. Now the different forms of law in the jurisdiction of the air include canon law, ecclesiastical law, ecumenical law, all those sorts of things, as well as law that deals with things like patents, ownership of copyrights and things of that nature. They can exist in the jurisdiction of the air. Then you have the soil, which is the national jurisdiction of every country, and the maritime, which is basically commercial or contract law. And then you have land law. The constitutions are land law. And that's just an example of all the different kinds of things that can be in the land law, but the constitutions are, interestingly enough, literally the law of the land, and so are treaties in general. And here down in Admiralty, we have Admiralty law. There you have the Uniform Code of Military Justice on the land side of this, and you have the true laws of Admiralty that take over on the sea. So I want everybody to take a good look at this and try to envision how these different jurisdictions all fit together and how these different kinds of law must interact with each other, and the sorts of determinations that have to be made to decide, well, is that an air issue or is that a soil issue? Is it a subject matter that belongs to the sea? Is it a matter of contract? Is it a matter of treaty? Each one of these different jurisdictions have their own forms of law that pertain. And so one of the great difficulties that we have when we are prosecuting something at law or prosecuting it legally is, what's the subject matter and where is it happening? Where is the action happening? What kind of law actually pertains to it? And that's part of what we'll be talking about, among other things, in this entire series. Thank you.